Dave, how did this sermon preparation benefit you spiritually?
Yeah, I kind of said it in my sermon where it's just like needing to switch service to an attitude of gratitude.
Andre?
I liked how you were honest about how this month's been for you, and then just how you turned it towards us and challenged us on what our motives were in doing this, and that gratitude is the key to enduring. I appreciate that.
Same with you, Dave. I was very much encouraged with bringing out the gratitude is necessary for our endurance, and wanting that to. It's just a really helpful reminder. Yeah. Appreciate that.
David?
I was very encouraged with that phrase. Gratitude is essential to endurance. So, as you have to move here to Chicago, and as Andrew too. So I'm used to serve a lot in different ways. That is back in El Salvador, so I have to be grateful in the way I'm serving now here, doing worksheets.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather be with people.
preparing sermons. So it's for the sake of the work of God.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
I was encouraged by the contrast you painted that this is a kingdom that it doesn't fall down. Where we talked about even like a sand castle to these great towers, but actually this thing is solid, and that's like a motivating aspect for us to keep going. So that, yeah, just you painted that stability in a helpful way for me, which would allow to do gratitude and that kind of stuff coming out of it. What's something that you need to tighten up? Something to work on and fix?
There's like, I'm still, I love the manuscript because it gives me a safety net, but there's still like a need to get away from it. Like there were definitely times where I felt more present, but times where, just kind of naturally go into talking to y'all rather than, I think it was improvement, but still needs work.
Sure.
So.
Andre?
I thought it was a great sermon. The first half, I had a little hard time tracking exactly where you were at, but recovered about midway through on.
To piggyback off of that.
Wait, can you say what it was about that?
I was getting his thoughts and concepts, but as I looked at the text, I was just trying to match it.
So you weren't sure where he was in the passage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Going off of that, Dave, with your structure, I think maybe that's one of my main points of improvement. I don't know exactly how you could have improved it, but I was a little bit disoriented that you started in the middle and then went to the front. I wasn't sure why, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So I could have set that up better.
maybe something like that.
Right. I think you can do that. That's not an illegitimate way to preach. But you need to tell us that's what you're doing.
Right.
Like here you did it like a sandwich, right? Like the picture's in the middle and the responses are on the outside. Even something like that, 2 sentences might be enough for us to know.
Okay. Yeah.
And in the same way that Andrew and Caleb, at the beginning I was a little lost with the homiletical points, but I think it was because of that, of you began with the center of the passage, and I got lost with that until maybe 10 minutes later, something like that, that you name again the parts or the points. I catch
Right.
better the structure that you are giving to us.
Yeah.
So, hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your first half of the sermon was really fast.
Yeah.
And it was more like talking over us than to us, it seemed like. But you had like you would take mini pauses, but they were just like, yeah, it was fast. There was kind of a lot there. I just thought you could have like sat down, like even give another like 1 second on some of these things, or you kept dropping in some of these good lines that I could tell you had crafted. One or two of those, it might be worth just stating again, or repeating it for the sake of like just giving us a chance to catch our breath, because your cadence was really quick for the first half. It slowed down toward the partway through, when you talked about like the poster child of unconfessed or unrepentant sin. You moved into your own personal story. Like at that point, you were kind of off your notes, and you were with us then, and that was when you slowed down, and it was much easier to track with at that point. So I'm not sure it was just the amount of content you felt that you need to get through at the beginning.
I think it's just A, my natural tendency,
Yeah.
but B, when I'm doing content, I usually go through it quicker than like the quote unquote pastoral moments.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, but it just was like so much. It was just
Yeah.
like, whew,
Yeah.
knocking me down.
Yeah, you had a lot of great statements, and as I was trying to write them down, like here comes another one,
Yeah.
and so I stopped writing the one down, and so yeah, just that speed, and but a lot of great statements, and the other thing was just like I think I got your first point, but then I think I missed your second one. The points weren't real clear. I mean, I could tell when you changed your points, but I couldn't like what was the main statement.
Yeah.
What I've got here, Dave, for the second point is I could have been helped by you repeating your main point. So you said it once, I think, at the beginning, but I would have just been helped to hear it again. You did repeat it later on, but anyway, maybe that's also in like saying it slower. I'm not sure, but just so that it sunk in more for me, then I could hang on to it.
All right, and I'm going to jump in because I think something that could help you get there is you actually didn't tell us your points. You told us your structural breakdown. You said there's a picture without immediately telling us what it's a picture of.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would have said we have a picture of an enduring kingdom,
Right.
now all of a sudden you can say this is the enduring kingdom for which we are to endure.
Right.
Or if you said that, you just said it too fast and I missed it. So emphasize it more, right?
Yeah, no, I said picture and two responses. I didn't
Right.
fully lay them out.
And
Yeah.
so, and then you say something about the response you want, and it's like a response not of rejection, but of gratitude, right? So so if you actually name your points, because if I just said, right, if you gave me a worksheet that said, here's my argument, and then your homiletical points were picture, two responses, my first question would be, okay, how do those support or make your argument? You've got to tell me the content of the picture and the content of the responses. That will show me how it makes your point, which will allow you to come back to it and show how everything that you're saying in the middle is driving towards that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you would have, like, up front laid out all three homiletical points then?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But you didn't even when you came to, you said it's going to be a picture and
Right.
two responses. But then when you came to the picture, you could have said, now the picture is one of an enduring kingdom.
Right.
So like you kind of like give us half of what you're
Yeah.
going to do early. Maybe you could do the whole thing. For the sake of simplicity, and like again, Jeremy offered what, like $100 to the first person who is too clear and
Right.
too simple.
Right.
You're not normally going to be too simple.
Okay.
So err on the side of being too simple. And if for you that means just like stating it out there, like that's fine. You're just getting another chance to restate it, and if it's serving your point, then all the better, right?
Right.
So we're gonna see a picture of an enduring kingdom, and we're gonna see two responses, and that the right one is to endure with gratitude.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, what did you not explain verse 29?
Yes! I'm glad you asked that.
So,
Because it didn't fit.
no, it fit. I just didn't think it was adding anything beyond like both his holiness and then the fact that he is going to conquer over everything that goes against him. So that's why it wasn't there.
But you had the bad response of judgment at your very up in verse 25,
Right.
and then your second one was a positive response, but it had this negative warning thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of felt like, oh, this didn't
Yeah,
fit
okay.
with what he's trying to do, so he cut it out of the Bible.
No, I didn't. I mean, I don't know if I would interpret that verse wholly negatively either. Though.
Okay, yeah,
So,
fair enough.
but yeah, that was my thought process. It might have been the wrong thought process, but that was my thought
Okay,
process.
yeah. all right.
And my other question is, what was your gospel connection?
The enduring kingdom, we can be certain of it because of Christ the King.
Okay, what did you try that you thought worked, or was a step of improvement for you?
I think I had more time to really craft this better than my previous ones, and being able to implement some of the things that we're learning. I tried to go slower, so I'm glad to hear at least the back half was slower. But yeah, those were the two things that I think I focused on the most.
I thought your conclusion was great, how you tied back
Mhm.
to your introduction.
Yeah.
Sandcastle, the towers, that was great.
That was one of mine too. I have that to say. Yeah, Dave, your conclusion was excellent and captured the tone of the text in its kind of warning sense with your illustration, which is strong. And the way you drove it home to us, yeah, it was just a great way to close.
David?
So, I like your main point. I like it because it was very clear, and maybe too because we were we were studying the context the context of it. It was making sense of all the chapter.
Yeah.
So I like the main point a lot.
Yeah. I think you did something that would have been easy to mess up, but you did it well. And it was when you went in on gratitude. You used like kind of a main argument endure, but it would be really easy to make gratitude its own thing, totally disconnected from your argument of endurance. But you didn't do that. You actually showed that this is an essential ingredient, or I forget exactly how you said it. It's essential for endurance. So, like in application, you want like your argument and your application to be like feeding and building off of one another, and that's like a really easy place to fall down. But you didn't do it, so that was really well done.
Yeah, I really liked your main point too, right? It was endure for the one kingdom that endures. Yeah, I thought that was great. Great way to tie that up there, and statements in there. You had great statements, and I really liked how you did the sandcastle introduction. How you just like you just kept me like, okay, what is it? What is it? That was really good.
There's a point, it might have been in your, I think in your second point, Dave, where you were talking about how we dismiss judgment, and You explained it in the life of the church, how that can be seen in liberal settings and conservative settings. And then also you explained how you showed Genesis 3 as an example of dismissing judgment. And the way you handle both of those, that is just very compelling explanation of how we do that.
So I like the way that you tie the introduction with the conclusion. And also in the conclusion, it was very interesting, and that when you start talking about the big construction, huge construction, it was a surprise there. Because you talk about the 9/11 and then you tie to that conclusion with the argument and with the title of the sermon. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought you set up both your intro and conclusion well. Like, you kind of kept suspense there, that you didn't tell us what it was that was being built. And so, like, all my mind's basically, oh, it's about to talk about, like, the Sears Tower, and, like, or you can talk about, like, I was just like, listen, the Earth first one was like, oh, is it like an ice sculpture? Like, what is he talking about? So, like, but that's great. Like, you have a great way of kind of telling and setting that up. I thought again, where you slowed down was really helpful. In the desk place where you slowed down, and you can tell it had the desired effect of causing guys to do application, was your own kind of personal vulnerability. It wasn't like too much, especially for this setting, but showing them and applying it, right? It wasn't just like personal vulnerability, like for the sake of pity or personal vulnerability. It's for the sake of, like, I realized if I'm going to make it in ministry, much less Chicago course, it needs to be coming out of gratitude. So again, you use that illustration for the sake of your application. So, and all towards your main point of endurance.